In a moment of stillness, when the heart is weighed down by the burdens of daily life, a handful of salt, not for seasoning food but for awakening the sacred within the home, becomes the key to unlocking peace. Salt, the simple white crystal gifted by God, has been a symbol of purification, protection, and an eternal covenant with Him since ancient times. In the Bible, Jesus called His disciples the salt of the earth, for salt, though small, has the power to dispel darkness and cleanse the wounds of the soul. A simple act, sprinkling salt into flowing water, can invite God's presence, transforming an ordinary bathroom corner into a sacred altar where fear, shame, and suffering are washed away. Are you ready to explore the power of salt to declare that your home and soul belong to God? In the early morning, as dawn filters through the window blinds, the house is quiet, save for the ticking of the wall clock and the soft hum of the coffee maker in the kitchen. But there is one place in this home, a small corner often overlooked, where the most private moments of humanity unfold: the bathroom. There, the toilet stands silently, not the center of attention, unadorned by flowers or scented candles. Yet it holds a deeper significance than any other household item. It is not merely a place to flush away physical impurities, but a space where the soul can release invisible burdens, worries about unpaid bills, regrets over years gone by, and spiritual scars that only God understands. The bathroom has long been a sanctuary. It is where a weary father, after a long day's work, can stand under the shower, letting the water wash away stress. It is where a mother, amidst sleepless nights worrying about her children, sits on the cold tile floor and whispers a prayer. It is where an elderly person facing the aches of old age finds quiet to reflect on their journey of faith. The bathroom is more than a physical space. It is a private sanctuary where people confront their fragility, shed their outer layers, and become their truest selves before God. The toilet, in its simplicity, becomes a powerful symbol of release. Each flush, with its forceful swirl, carries away what is no longer needed, leaving cleanliness and renewal. But what if this act went beyond physical cleansing? What if the toilet, through a simple ritual, became a gateway to purifying the soul? This is where salt, a small but sacred crystal, enters the scene. Salt is no stranger to any household. It sits humbly in a spice jar on the dining table, sprinkled on fries or stirred into Sunday soup. But salt's significance extends far beyond its role as a seasoning. In the Bible, salt is a symbol of eternity and purification. The book of Leviticus records that every sacrificial offering must be seasoned with salt as a sign of the unbreakable covenant between God and His people. Jesus, in His Sermon on the Mount, looked at His disciples and declared, "You are the salt of the earth," Matthew 5:13. Not gold, not pearls, but salt, small, humble, yet capable of preserving, cleansing, and transforming everything it touches. Historically, salt was once as valuable as gold. In ancient Rome, soldiers were paid in salt, and the word salary derives from sal, meaning salt. Even in the 19th century, salt was indispensable in households for preserving meat through harsh winters. But its spiritual significance runs deeper. In Catholic churches, holy salt is used in baptismal rites, symbolizing the cleansing of sin and protection of the soul from darkness. In Protestant communities, salt evokes Jesus' teaching that every believer must bring light and goodness to the world, just as salt brings flavor to food. When salt is sprinkled into the toilet, the act is more than a physical ritual. It is a bold declaration that every corner of the home, even the most mundane, belongs to God. The swirling water carrying the salt becomes a symbol of spiritual purification, washing away unspoken pains, the sorrow of a father who lost his job, the loneliness of a widow, or the regrets of an elderly person reflecting on past mistakes. The salt dissolves, but its power lingers, permeating the space, protecting the home from negative energies and inviting God's presence. The bathroom, with its dim light from a wall-mounted lamp and the gentle sound of running water, becomes an unexpected sanctuary. In that moment, the toilet ceases to be a mundane fixture. It is an altar where people offer their burdens to God, where they release what weighs their souls down. Water, since ancient times, a symbol of rebirth from God's creation when He separated water and land to Jesus' baptism in the Jordan River, takes on new meaning. As salt meets the water, it stirs not only the surface but the spiritual atmosphere, like the angel who stirred the pool of Bethesda to heal the sick. Life is not always easy. The years bring scars, from unfulfilled dreams, broken relationships to worries about health or finances. But in the small bathroom, amidst worn tiles and a steamy mirror, there is a chance to begin anew. A handful of salt, a whispered prayer, and a flush of water can become a sacred ritual where God enters not with thunder or fire, but with peace as gentle as the morning sun. This act requires no grand cathedral or soaring choir. It needs only a sincere heart ready to open before God. As the salt falls into the water, it carries an invitation. Lord, cleanse this home, cleanse my soul. And in the quiet of the room, amidst the sound of swirling water and a sigh of relief, God listens. He does not disdain the bathroom or the humble toilet. He was born in a manger, touched the sick, and used mud to open the eyes of the blind. He is the God of humble places, ready to transform them into sanctuaries. From the small bathroom, a simple act opens the door to renewal. Salt, with its quiet power, becomes a bridge between humanity and God, between today's burdens and the promise of tomorrow's peace. But this act is not the end. It is the beginning of a deeper ritual where people learn to let go, trust, and walk in the light of faith. From the small bathroom, where soft light glows through a steamy mirror, the act of sprinkling salt into the toilet unveils a ritual both simple and profound. No white robes or ornate altars are needed, only a handful of salt, the sacred crystal God used to seal covenants, and a heart ready to let go. The swirling water in the toilet carrying the salt becomes a symbol of purification, washing away not only physical impurities but also invisible burdens, anxieties about tomorrow, scars from harsh words, or the weight of unhealed years. In that moment, the bathroom ceases to be ordinary. It becomes a sanctuary where God hears silent prayers and transforms surrender into the start of renewal. Starting this ritual requires no elaborate preparation. A jar of sea salt commonly found in the kitchen is enough. It could be kosher salt left over from a Thanksgiving feast or table salt sitting quietly next to the pepper shaker on the spice rack. Whatever the type, salt carries the power of humility, small, simple, yet chosen by God to do extraordinary things. With the salt jar in hand, footsteps softly enter the bathroom, where light from an old bulb casts a glow on tiles faded by time. The space, with the faint scent of soap and the drip of a faucet, becomes a meeting place between humanity and God. Holding a pinch of salt in the palm, the cool touch of the crystals against the skin serves as a reminder of God's presence in the simplest things. Before sprinkling the salt, a moment of stillness envelops the room. Lips softly whisper a prayer, not long or ornate, but sincere. Lord, cleanse this home, wash away what does not belong to you. This prayer, though faint as a passing breeze, echoes in the spiritual realm, opening the door to purification. As the salt falls from the hand into the toilet's water, it dissolves, blending in, beginning its journey, not just cleaning the porcelain surface, but stirring the invisible atmosphere, dispelling negative energies lingering in the home's corners. The water, when flushed, creates a familiar yet powerful sound. The forceful swirl carries the salt away, taking with it what one wishes to release. It might be the pain of a mother longing for a child, now far away, the stress of a father facing mounting bills, or the regret of an elderly person pondering missed opportunities. This act becomes a ritual of liberation. The toilet, in its simplicity, transforms into a modern altar where burdens are offered to God, where water and salt together perform the work of rebirth. Letting go is not easy. Many cling to pain out of habit. Unforgiven words, shattered dreams, or worries about the future pile up like old boxes in a garage corner. But God, in His mercy, does not ask people to carry these burdens forever. He invites surrender, and the salt sprinkling ritual is a way to answer that call. As the salt dissolves in the water, it carries a declaration: these things no longer have power over me. This home, this soul belongs to God. In the Bible, water has long been a symbol of cleansing and renewal. When Jesus was baptized in the Jordan River, the water did not merely clean his body, but marked the start of his mission. The pool of Bethesda, where an angel stirred the water to heal, proves that God can turn water into a vessel of miracles. The toilet, though mundane, holds similar power. As salt merges with the water and the swirl begins, it recalls biblical moments when God used small things to work wonders, like 5 loaves feeding thousands or Moses' staff parting the Red Sea. This ritual is not superstition. It is an act of faith where salt and water become a bridge between humanity and God's presence. In that moment, the bathroom transforms. The light from the bulb feels gentler. The sound of flowing water carries a melody of release. The space is no longer just for bathing or hygiene. It is where people face their truth, their weaknesses, wounds, and moments they dare not share with anyone but God. The toilet, with its silent white porcelain, becomes a witness to prayers to surrender and to the promise that God never turns away from humble places. He entered a stable to be born, sat with sinners, and now he is ready to be present in the bathroom corner where salt and water offer an invitation to faith. The act of sprinkling salt does not end when the water stops swirling. It is the start of a deeper process where people learn to trust that God is working even in the unseen. This ritual offers a moment to pause, to breathe, to pray, and to entrust everything to God. It requires no long hours or complex preparations. Just a few minutes, a pinch of salt, and an open heart, and the bathroom becomes a place where miracles begin. As one steps out of the bathroom, the air feels lighter. The steamy mirror reflects a face less burdened than before. The ticking of the living room clock remains steady, but now it carries a rhythm of hope. The salt sprinkling ritual in its simplicity has planted a seed of faith ready to grow into peace, healing, and protection. But for that seed to flourish, patience, trust, and a next step in the spiritual journey are needed, a step God is waiting to guide. When the water in the toilet stops swirling, carrying the salt into the unseen, a stillness envelops the bathroom. The light from the wall-mounted lamp seems softer, as if the space has been renewed by a power beyond what the eyes can perceive. Sprinkling salt is not merely an act of cleansing. It is a bold declaration in the spiritual realm, an invisible sword slicing through the chains of darkness. In that moment, the toilet, a simple porcelain fixture, becomes a battlefield where faith confronts invisible burdens. Fears that creep in during the dead of night, silent curses clinging through generations, or the weight of unhealed wounds. With salt in hand and a prayer on the lips, one does not merely clean the home. They proclaim that every corner, from the cold tile floor to the damp bathroom nook, belongs to God. Spiritual warfare is not a new concept. From the pages of the Bible, stories of the battle between light and darkness have been told through generations. When Moses raised his staff to part the Red Sea, it was not just a physical miracle, but a declaration that God's power surpasses all obstacles. When David faced Goliath with a sling, the small stone in the boy's hand became a weapon of faith, felling a giant. Today, in a bathroom, with the drip of a showerhead and the faint scent of lavender soap salt becomes the modern stone. It is small, familiar, sitting quietly next to the sugar jar in the kitchen, but when held with sacred intent, it carries the power to banish what does not belong to the light. This ritual requires no physical strength or the courage of a warrior. It demands a heart ready to trust, a soul daring to stand and say enough. Invisible burdens like anxiety rising with each stack of bills on the dining table, regret smoldering from choices made decades ago, or the quiet sorrow of seeing empty chairs at family dinners are not meant to be carried forever. They are shadows seeking to take root, whispers trying to convince that peace is unattainable. But salt, when it falls into the water, becomes the response. It dissolves but does not vanish. It permeates the space, carrying the prayer, proclaiming that darkness has no place in this home. The toilet in its humility becomes the center of this battle. Each flush with its forceful swirl does not merely carry away salt. It sweeps away the invisible cords binding the soul, family curses no one dares name, fears passed down through generations, or spiritual scars from nameless traumas. Water, since ancient times a symbol of cleansing from creation when God divided the seas to the baptism in the Jordan River, now becomes an ally merging with salt to do God's work. As the swirl stops, the space feels more open, as if an invisible wall has crumbled. Faith is the flame that ignites this ritual. The salt itself holds no power, but the intent and belief behind the act do. People often find God in quiet moments, sitting in an armchair with an open Bible on their lap, or standing at the kitchen sink gazing at the sunset through the window. The salt sprinkling ritual brings God to an unexpected place, the bathroom, where tiles are cold underfoot and the ventilation fan hums softly. But in that unexpected place, God works. He needs no grand cathedral or resounding choir. He requires only an open heart ready to believe that a small act can stir the spiritual realm. The Bible teaches that God delights in small things. 5 loaves and 2 fish fed thousands. The tiniest mustard seed grew into the greatest tree. A pinch of salt offered with faith holds similar power. It does not merely clean the toilet, it purifies the invisible space, banishing what clings like doubt creeping in when prayers seem unanswered, or the weight of dreams that never came to fruition. This act is a reminder that God is not distant. He is here in the bathroom with a faded curtain and a nearly empty bottle of hand soap, ready to transform it into a sanctuary of healing. Those who have endured long winters with snow covering the driveway, who have sat by a fireplace with a steaming mug of tea, know that spiritual warfare is not always loud. It often unfolds in silence, in moments no one witnesses. When salt falls into the water, it is a quiet but powerful declaration. This home belongs to God. This soul belongs to Him, and God in His mercy listens. He does not scorn the toilet or the damp bathroom. He used mud to open the eyes of the blind, dined with sinners. He is ready to be present in the humblest place, bringing His light to dispel the darkness. Sprinkling salt is a sword in the spiritual realm, but it is also an invitation. It calls people to a deeper trust where they not only let go, but wait for peace to seep into every corner of the home. Wait for healing to mend the cracks in the soul. As one steps out of the bathroom, the water has stilled, but the ritual's echo lingers. The house feels quieter, not because sound has vanished, but because a new presence fills the space. But for that presence to grow, a next step is needed, a journey of faith where one learns to stand firm and trust that God is working even in the unseen. When the bathroom door closes, the sound of water swirling in the toilet fades, leaving a gentle stillness enveloping the room. The light from the wall-mounted lamp glows on tiles worn by time, and the salt jar, now slightly lighter, rests quietly on the shelf. The salt sprinkling ritual does not end when the water stops flowing. It is a seed of faith planted, carrying the promise of peace, healing, and renewal. The toilet with its humble white porcelain has become an altar where burdens are offered to God, where salt and water merge to declare that darkness has no power. But for that seed to sprout and blossom, it requires time, patience, and a heart ready to wait for God to work in the quiet of the days ahead. The house, with its windows rattling in the autumn wind and the scent of freshly baked cookies wafting from the kitchen, begins to carry a different atmosphere. Not because the walls are freshly painted or the furniture rearranged, but because an invisible presence has filled the space. The salt sprinkling ritual, though simple, has stirred the spiritual realm, leaving its mark not only in the bathroom, but in every small corner of the home, from the worn armchair where the Bible is opened each evening to the dining table where family stories are shared. Peace, like morning sunlight slipping through the blinds, begins to permeate everyday moments, gentle but undeniable, like the rustle of dry leaves on the path outside the porch. The ritual's impact does not always come instantly. Like a farmer sowing seeds in cold soil, one must learn to wait. Old worries like the jarring ring of a phone bearing unwanted news or the emptiness of a room once filled with laughter may still creep back. But salt, with its quiet power, has planted a reminder God is working even in the unseen. In the Bible, Naaman, the powerful general, had to bathe 7 times in the Jordan River before he was healed. The muddy water and repetitive act seemed pointless, but patience and faith opened the door to a miracle. The salt sprinkling ritual is similar. It is not a blinding flash of light, but a small flame burning steadily, ready to blaze when God's time arrives. The bathroom, with its mottled mirror and faded curtain, remains a sacred place after the ritual. Each step inside the sound of the shower or the scent of soap becomes an invitation to return to faith. The toilet where salt once fell now holds new meaning. It is not merely a fixture for physical cleansing, but a symbol of release, both of material dirt and spiritual burdens. The swirling water once carrying salt recalls the pool of Bethesda where an angel stirred the water to heal. Each flush, like a repeated prayer, is a chance to offer God unspoken pains, unreleased fears, and lingering regrets. Waiting is not passivity. It is an act of faith, a trust that God in His unconditional love never abandons those who call on Him. People often find God in quiet moments, sitting by a window with a cold cup of coffee or flipping through old photos in a family album. The salt sprinkling ritual opens a new path to meet Him, not in a church with dazzling stained glass, but in the bathroom corner where human truth is laid bare. God does not disdain that place. He was born in a manger, used mud and spit to heal the blind. He is ready to step into the humblest space, bringing the promise that all things can be made new. The ritual's lasting impact lies in the inner change. Sleep becomes deeper, no longer disturbed by nightmares or nameless anxieties. Conversations around the dining table carry a touch more warmth, as if an invisible wall has been dismantled. Even on rainy days when the sky is gray and the wind whistles through the door's cracks, the soul feels lighter, as if the salt has permeated the space, shielding the home from unseen shadows. These changes are not always obvious. They arrive quietly like light spreading at dawn, but they are proof that God is working, answering the prayer offered with the salt. The ritual's call does not end with one sprinkling of salt. It is an invitation to continue the journey of faith, to make each day a chance to meet God. Each morning, as sunlight streams through the window and birds sing in the trees outside, one is called to rise, take the salt, and repeat the ritual, not out of doubt in the previous act's power, but because faith is a path, not a destination. The toilet, with its silent white porcelain, remains an altar. The bathroom, with its cold tiles and crooked towel, remains a sanctuary. And salt, small but sacred, remains the bridge between humanity and God. Stepping out of the bathroom, the eyes sweep over the house, from the bookshelf filled with yellowed novels to the table where meals are shared. Everything seems to carry new meaning, as if the salt has touched not only the toilet, but the hidden corners of the soul. The journey of faith does not end. It continues with each pinch of salt, each prayer, and each moment one chooses to trust in God. And in that trust, a miracle not of thunder or fire, but of peace and healing arrives like radiant light after a long night. When the morning light slips through the curtain's gap, casting rays on the worn wooden floor of the house, a new day begins with the chirping of birds on the porch and the faint aroma of coffee drifting from the kitchen. The bathroom, with its cold tiles and steamy mirror, stands quietly, but it is no longer an ordinary place. The toilet where salt once fell and swirling water carried away burdens is now a silent altar where humanity meets God in the truest form. The ritual of sprinkling salt, simple as the white crystals in a spice jar, has opened a journey of faith, transforming the house into a sanctuary, the soul into a place of rest. The ritual's conclusion is not an end, but an invitation to live each day in God's light, carrying salt as a symbol of purification, protection, and an eternal covenant. The journey begins with a handful of salt, but its meaning far surpasses the physical act. People often seek God in private moments, sitting by the fireplace with an old journal or standing at the sink watching the moon glimmer through the window. The salt sprinkling ritual brings him closer, not through thunder or fire, but through the stillness of the bathroom where the tiled floor holds footprints and the soap bottle nears empty. Salt, small but sacred, becomes a bridge between everyday worries, like the early alarm's ring-stacked bills or the emptiness of a too-quiet house, and God's promise of peace. The toilet, with its silent white porcelain, has witnessed moments of release. Not only physical impurities, but also invisible burdens, regrets over unspoken words, the weight of unfinished dreams, or fears creeping in during sleepless nights. The swirling water carrying salt recalls the Jordan River where Jesus was baptized, or the pool of Bethesda where an angel stirred the water for healing. Each flush transforms the bathroom into an unexpected sanctuary where silent prayers echo, where God listens and responds with a gentle presence, like light shimmering on a lake at dawn. This ritual is not a singular act. It is a call to live in faith, to make each day an opportunity to offer God the hidden corners of the soul. In the Bible, Jesus taught, "You are the salt of the earth." Matthew 5:13, not because salt is costly or glamorous, but because it changes everything it touches. A pinch of salt sprinkled with sacred intent has the power to cleanse a space, protect a home, and pave the way for miracles. It reminds us that God is not distant in grand cathedrals or misty hills. He is here in the bathroom, with faded curtains in the house, with crooked picture frames in the heart learning to let go. Living in the light of faith does not mean all difficulties vanish. Winter days still come, with snow blanketing the path and wind whistling through door cracks. Worries may return like shadows slipping through the cracks. But salt, with its quiet power, has planted an unquenchable seed. Each time one steps into the bathroom, holds the salt jar, and whispers a prayer, they declare again that darkness has no power. This home, this soul belongs to God, and He, in His unconditional love, responds with peace that seeps deep like warmth from a fireplace on a cold evening. The journey of faith is a long road, not a destination. Each pinch of salt is a step, each prayer a breath, each flush a reminder that God is working even in the unseen. People are called to continue the ritual not out of doubt in its prior power, but because faith is a daily commitment. The bathroom, with its worn tiles and mottled mirror, remains a sacred place. The toilet, with its swirling water, remains an altar. And salt, though small, remains a sacred crystal carrying God's covenant. As the day ends, the sunset bathes the trees outside in gold, and the house settles into stillness. The ticking of the living room clock, the soft footsteps on the wooden floor, and the faint scent of a burning candle on the dining table create a simple scene. But within that scene is an undeniable presence. God's presence, invited through salt, through water, through faith. The salt sprinkling ritual has turned the house into a sanctuary, the soul into a place of rest, and every moment into a chance to live in the light. The next step lies not in the bathroom, but in the heart, where one chooses to trust, to let go, and to let God lead like radiant light guiding through a long night. The ritual of sprinkling salt into the toilet is a simple act with profound spiritual power, transforming the bathroom into a sanctuary and the toilet into an altar where burdens are released. With a jar of salt and a sincere heart, this ritual invites God's presence, purifying both space and soul. Below are the specific steps designed for anyone to perform in the quiet of their home, from houses with wooden porches to small apartments along oak-lined streets. Choose a jar of salt from the kitchen, coarse sea salt, kosher salt left from a family dinner, or table salt sitting beside the pepper on the spice rack. No expensive or special salt is needed. The power lies in the intent, not the material value. Pour a small amount into your palm, enough to feel the cool crystals against your skin, a reminder of the humility God cherishes. Open the bathroom door, where soft light from a wall-mounted lamp glows on tiles faded by time. Close the door, making the space private, where only God is witness. The hum of the ventilation fan or the drip of the shower becomes a background melody, creating a sacred stillness. Stand before the toilet, noting the simplicity of its white porcelain, unadorned yet ready to become an altar. Hold the salt in your hand, close your eyes, and take a deep breath. Whisper a sincere prayer, not lengthy or ornate. Lord, cleanse this home, wash away worries, pain, and darkness that do not belong to you. The prayer might seek protection for family, release from regret, or simply invite peace. Intent is the flame that ignites the ritual, transforming salt into a sacred crystal. Lift the toilet lid and let the salt fall from your palm into the water. Watch the crystals dissolve, blending in as God dissolves invisible burdens. This act not only cleans the porcelain, but stirs the spiritual realm, banishing negative energies lingering in the home's corners. Press the flush valve, letting the water swirl powerfully, carrying the salt away. The sound of flowing water is a hymn of release, sweeping away fear, shame, or regret into the unseen. As the water stills, the room feels lighter, as if an invisible wall has fallen. Offer a final prayer. Thank you, Lord, for purification and protection. Wash your hands under the faucet, feeling the cool water like a small baptism, renewing the soul. Step out of the bathroom, noticing the fresh stillness in the space, from the scent of baking in the kitchen to the light glimmering on the wooden floor. The ritual does not end here. It is a seed of faith ready to sprout through repetition, each time drawing God closer. This ritual can be performed anytime early morning as dawn breaks, or late at night when the house is quiet. It requires no lengthy time or complex preparation, only a trusting heart and a pinch of salt. Repeat the ritual weekly or whenever the soul feels heavy, to keep the home and spirit protected in God's light.